Broadcasting from Detroit's Cass Corridor, it's the Metro on WDET. I'm Tia Graham.
And I'm Robin Vincent. Today's program looks at how institutions change and how people make meaning as they do. We'll start with the auto industry, where familiar anchors are moving.
We'll also step back from the news cycle to examine citizenship itself. As immigration enforcement intensifies and fewer people come to the United States, we'll explore how belonging is defined, tested, and lived.
And in the second hour, we turn to the city's pulse. The Pistons are winning again. Can they keep it going before the shot clock runs out?
And the Detroit Repertory Theater, August Wilson's The Piano Lesson returns to the stage, asking what we inherit, what we owe, and what we carry forward. This is the Metro.
We begin with a storied part of car culture here in the Motor City, the Detroit Auto Show. It's the second year the event has returned to its traditional winter schedule. The show moved to the summer after the pandemic, but attendance and industry interest fell short of expectations. WDET's Alex McLenon has been covering a series of automotive events across Detroit in recent weeks. He stopped by the auto show and has this report.
This year's installment of the annual January event looks a lot like it did last year. There are notably fewer car companies in attendance than there were 10 to 15 years ago. 3 test tracks where showgoers can ride along in the newest vehicles help fill up empty floor space. There are still plenty of cars, trucks, and SUVs to kick the tires on. Companies like Toyota, Stellantis, Ford, and General Motors all prominently feature in Huntington Place. Chad Lyons is spokesperson for GM's Chevrolet brand. He says among the products the company is highlighting at this year's show is its new Stars and Steel collection, special edition vehicles celebrating the United States' 250th birthday.
So right here behind us we have the Corvette ZR1X. There's going to be 250 copies of these.
The black sports car features a silver American flag pattern stripe draped over its left side from hood to trunk. While the vehicle is new, Lyons says it isn't the first time the public has seen it.
It debuted just a few weeks ago at the Army-Navy game. That was the first time that people saw it, but this is the first time that it's here at Detroit.
That highlights one of the ways the auto show has changed over the years. Once upon a time, Media Week was a popular opportunity for manufacturers to take the covers off their latest models. That hasn't been the case recently. In fact, other than a variant of Ford Bronco, the only new vehicle debuting at this year's show isn't a car at all. It's a tank. In the corner of a room one floor below the main displays, I found the U.S. Army rolling out a prototype of its M1E3 Abrams.
This is the early prototype of the Army's next-gen tank, which is taking advantage of advancements in the automotive industry around software, around controls, and even automotive performance.
That's the U.S. Army's Troy Denemy. He says unveiling the latest tank in Detroit makes sense. Southeast Michigan's ties to military manufacturing date back to World War II. As for how the tank would hold up in a drag race against some of the show's sportier vehicles,
I think it would give it a run for its money for a second or two.
The auto show is not the only place in Detroit where cars have debuted in recent days. Ford scheduled its motorsport season launch party separately at the old Michigan Central Station. The highlight was 2 Formula One car unveils. Ford has entered an agreement with Red Bull Racing to support the team's engine work. The 2026 liveries for Red Bull Racing's RB22 and Racing Bull's V-Carbo 3 were both shown to the public for the first time. For 18-year-old Racing Bull's driver Arvid Lindblad, it's his first F1 car.
I think it looks pretty cool. I hope it's as fast as it looks good.
Lindblad says he's taking an open mind and no expectations into his rookie season at the top level of global motorsport.
I haven't even driven the car yet, so I'm mainly just focused on preparing in the best way possible, working hard with the team, on the sim, at the factory.
But executives at Ford Motor Company will have a close eye on the F1 program. Mark Rushbrook is global director of Ford Racing.
Motorsports is at the core of our company from the very beginning, And now with Ford Racing reinvented, we're using it as a business.
And the event wasn't only about race cars. The Dearborn automaker used the occasion to debut its latest version of Ford Mustang, the Dark Horse SC. It was the kind of glamorous, showy unveil that used to take place as part of the auto show's media week. Instead, it was held across town at an alternate event. Rushbrook says taking the festivities to Michigan Central, a place Ford is heavily invested in, was a logical move.
I mean, I think this is a symbol of the city of Detroit. And to be able to come here with racing as we have it, with Formula One at the top, to bring it into this very special place, it made sense.
Despite being unveiled somewhere else, the Mustang Dark Horse SC has made its way over to the Detroit Auto Show. Attendees can find it on display in the Ford exhibit throughout the week. Chevrolet's Chad Lyons says the way car companies unveil products is evolving.
I think it's trying to find out the strategy that helps us reach the most number of people that we can.
And that can mean finding new methods for utilizing big events.
Certainly, auto shows is still a place where we aim to make news around the dates of auto shows. So for instance, earlier this week, we talked about Hudson's, which is our new global headquarters. We also unveiled our test livery for F1, Cadillac team did.
In that way, manufacturers say they still find value in auto shows, even if they aren't quite the spectacle they once were. This year's Detroit Auto Show is open to the public through January 25th. I'm Alex McLenon, WDET News.
And Alex McLenon joins me now. Alex, welcome back.
Good morning, Robin.
So we just heard your dispatch from the auto show. Army tanks, some test tracks inside, and Ford's decision to unveil its new Mustang model on its own turf, which is Michigan Central.
Yep.
The auto show was always the place to do those big, splashy reveals. What does that say about the auto show's prominence in the auto industry?
Well, I think it says a lot about kind of the media landscape and what it is to, unveil cars now in the era of cell phones and internet and everything else. The way that they engage people is maybe a little different. You maybe don't need a one-stop shop of sorts for all the automotive journalists to be at to spread the word about the vehicle, because they can access people through the internet and whatnot. Now, what that means for auto shows is different, because, yes, car unveils were parts of big auto shows, but the other part of it is that it's an opportunity to go open the doors and look at cars that, if you are a prospective buyer, you might get eventually, or, have some kind of interest in getting. And for that reason, you'd think an auto show would still do pretty well. I mean, if you buy a house, you're going to spend a lot of time inside that house. You wouldn't buy a house without going in it. Would you buy a car, sight unseen on the internet without opening it at any point? So for that reason, I mean, personally, myself, I'm a little confused why that still isn't a draw to auto shows. But it's, it's markedly smaller than it was a decade, 2 decades ago. And the cool displays from, back when we were kids with the turntables and different lighting and all that kind of stuff that made it like a kind of really...
A rave.
Yeah, it was like a really visual, vivid experience.
Yeah.
But it isn't that anymore. I mean, it's like a showroom. You walk in and it's cars on carpet. I think I counted one turntable on the floor this year. So it isn't, I mean, there are still some cars there, but it is, half the size it once was or less, and just not quite the same.
Okay, so the days of thumping bass and strobe lights at the auto show, those days are over, but it's still the place to have that tactile experience with a car for prospective buyers anyway. What was the balance like between domestic and foreign automakers compared to years past?
Well, for Detroit, domestic manufacturers are definitely the ones that are most
dominate.
Interested in it. Yeah, because Stellantis has a presence there. Toyota has a presence there. General Motors obviously has a presence there, and they have multiple of their brands because, they've all got a number of brands in their portfolio. Toyota had a pretty large presence there as well, though Toyota is kind of like a pseudo-American manufacturer because of how much of this stuff they do in the U.S. And other than that, there's little areas where there's some Hondas and some Subarus and some Volkswagens, although it is kind of unclear. Sometimes it's local dealers that are bringing the cars and not like the manufacturer orchestrating. So it's a little bit it's hard to tell when you're going between the displays which is which with the smaller ones. But as far as the domestic manufacturers, yeah, they're still coming out because it is their backyard and putting things on display.
I mean, you're describing a really scaled down, smaller iteration of the Detroit Auto Show. Do you think it can survive in its current form?
I didn't get the sense that it was any worse off this year than it was, and it is, since it moved back to the winter, I would say it is a little bit better than it was in the summer. I mean, in the summer, a third of the floor space was like booths with college kids and stuff. It was, the summer one just never caught. This felt like it was about the same as it was last year. Is it stable where it's at? It might be. I think if someone came up to me tomorrow and said, hey, it's gone, it's not coming back, I would be, not stunned, but I would be surprised. So I do think kind of in the state that it's at, it'll probably keep going forward, and we'll see if it goes up or down in the coming years.
Let's move from the auto show itself to some of the big headlines concerning the big three. General Motors has moved into the Hudson building, leaving the Renaissance Center behind. Can you tell us about the move?
Yeah, so, and you heard it mentioned in the feature, the car companies do like to kind of make news around the auto show still. Last week on Monday was the first day that General Motors had employees working out of the Hudson building, they said. Speaking at a fireside chat in the Hudson building, General Motors CEO Mary Barra was asked about when the company knew it was ready to leave the RenCen behind. Barra says it was something they were thinking about even before COVID.
No, it was something that we were working on even before then, because it just, when we looked at just the structure of the building, it really wasn't aligned for our business, where there's so much collaboration in our business. And, when, to have to take 10 minutes to walk up and down, go up, down a tower, up a tower, to get to the people that you needed to work with, it wasn't the same business that it was 50 years ago when it was built. Right. And the speed is enabled by collaboration. And so we knew we needed to make change to get people closer together.
And that is a similar kind of reasoning that Ford also used, because Ford opened up a new world headquarters a couple months ago. That kind of needing a space that's easier to get around and collaborate in, because, saving 15 minutes to go check on something that someone else is doing can really streamline the process in the, vehicle creation.
Yeah, let's talk about Ford now, because it moved its new headquarters to Dearborn, right across from the Henry Ford Museum. And now you've been in both places, yes, both in GM and Ford's new headquarters. Compare them for us.
So they are very different. Ford's is much more purpose-built because it's at the center of its Dearborn campus. Ford has everything right there in one place. They've got their test tracks. They've got in their new headquarters building, there's spaces for the executives, and there is all of the car design suites and all that. It's all in one kind of central location. And it's not a skyscraper. It's a 4-floor building. It's technically 8 stories tall, but they say it was 4 floors. And it's kind of designed to get around and collaborate, kind of like you heard Mary Barra talking about there, about how having the ability to get around and collaborate is a good thing. General Motors is a different kind of thing, because the Hudson building is not by the rest of its facilities. Obviously, General Motors is kind of spread out around the region. They've got the Warren Tech Center, which they just invested a bunch of money in. They've got their proving grounds in Milford, where their test tracks are. But it's it's a little different with them. I think they're kind of looking for that kind of urban work aesthetic for its employees downtown. And the Hudson building, I have no doubt, is far less confusing inside than the RenCen Center, because we've all been lost in the RenCen at some point.
How many times?
At least once a year. But it also is not a purpose-built automotive building. The Hudson building was built without a tenant in mind, and General Motors kind of came to play later. So yeah, it is probably more logical building, but it is definitely less purpose-built than Ford's is.
A quick aside in like 10 seconds here. Do you think the Renaissance Center was designed for us to get lost in?
Sometimes I wonder. I don't think there's a ball of yarn in the world long enough to mark your course back to the front door. So it's very possible.
It's the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent. I'm joined by WDET reporter Alex McLenon. We're talking about the Detroit Auto Show and the two new headquarters for GM and Ford. And like you said, Alex, Ford's headquarters is expansive. It's a purpose-built campus in Dearborn. GM's is moving from one tower, a very confusing tower that folks may have gotten lost in, to another place downtown that's easier to navigate, the Hudson Building. Now, earlier you told us Ford also unveiled its new Mustang and new Formula One cars at Michigan Central. Another building Ford has really invested heavily in. What do these buildings tell us about the direction that these two companies are taking?
Well, it's good to see that they're still committed to anchoring their operations in Detroit. That's for one thing. And, Michigan Central Station, obviously, the auto show is a great place to reveal stuff in past years, but Ford has dumped a lot of money into Michigan Central, and it does make sense to show it off when it can. It shows that everyone is still committed to doing it in Detroit, whereas no one really knows what's going on with Stellantis because they're a conglomeration of so many international companies at this point. But as for Ford and General Motors, it does show that their direction is still committed to doing things in Motor City and expanding in different ways, especially as the industry is looking at new and evolving technologies with autonomous and everything else, because that is really what Michigan Central for Ford is supposed to kind of anchor, is that kind of autonomous and kind of outside the box work that kind of runs sometimes parallel to the auto industry and into that mobility space a little bit more broadly. I think it's good signs that they have new headquarters in Detroit, in the Detroit region, and they're still bringing the jobs here. Whether moving into the Hudson Building is really that difference of a presence for General Motors, that remains to be seen depending on what happens with the Rensen.
Alex, before we got on the mics here to start the show, we were talking about a very adorable electric vehicle Volkswagen van. And it just has me wondering about what the overall presence you noticed of EVs in general was at the auto show.
Well, it's funny because there was our friend Colin Jackson from the Michigan Public Radio Network. Me and him were both down there one day and had an hour to kill. So we were checking out some of the vehicles, and as they sit on a show floor, it can be hard to tell which one is and isn't electric, because we were trying to go through the displays on some of the vehicles inside to figure out if it was the electric model or not, because you can't always just tell when the car is sitting there now. And there's a lot of hybrid.
You need the front hood open.
Yeah, and that was when it was open. You'd be like, yes, there it is. There's no engine there. That is an electric vehicle. But also there's a lot of hybrid vehicles there too, because I think manufacturers are kind of going more towards that hybrid direction. Now that early adopter phase of EV is done, it seems like the hybrids are the ones that are catching consumers' eyes a little bit more, maybe ones that aren't ready to take the full plunge into EVs, and maybe a little bit easier to use with the current infrastructure. So, as I said on the floor, there are definitely some EVs there. Some of the space that used to be car companies that are not car companies anymore is like DTE with an electric booth about, things that aren't, totally automotive like they maybe used to be at the auto show. But yeah, you can't tell the difference. That's the thing. Sometimes they look like normal cars,
Yeah. Maybe there would have been more of an emphasis on EVs if there was an administration in the White House that was a lot friendlier toward them.
Yeah, and I will say there, for the test tracks, one of the test tracks did pretty prominently seem to be focusing on having electric vehicles that people could ride in. So if you're going there to ride in a vehicle and experience the test tracks, you could, compare riding an electric one to a conventional non-electric one. So that is something that you can do at the auto show.
You didn't do that, did you?
No, I did that. I've done that before. I didn't need to do it for my story this year, so I didn't. But I have been in electric vehicles. I'm not. Don't be pointing fingers at me, Robin.
No fingers shall be pointed. I want to end things on something we were talking about just moments ago, and that is the almighty Rensen. Is it totally now in GM's rear view?
Yeah, they are talking about, whatever them and Bedrock are going to do with it. Mary Barra at that fireside chat alluded to plans going forward as they had it. Whether there's going to be a public period for that or any kind of input, I don't know. And, they say they want to do a Navy pier like Chicago. What does that look like? Because the Detroit River is a shipping lane. So I don't think they're going to be building out from shore to very far. So who knows what that ends up looking like. If you want a sign that General Motors is committed to being done with 2 of the towers at the RenCen, because that is the proposal that they keep putting forward. If you, I see it every day driving to work because I live on the Lower East Side, but the 2 towers on the riverside, they do not turn the light ring on the roof of anymore. If you see on the skyline how they've got those light up bars at the top of the towers, the 2 towers on the riverside are no longer lit up, which you won't notice from I-75, but you will notice from the neighborhood. So I think they're trying to, it's a subtle way of telling people that ain't going to be there no more. But we'll see. That's still in the planning process. It needs approval. We'll see what it ultimately looks like. That's a whole other segment.
It sure is, and we will be covering it here on the Metro. Alex McLenon is a reporter for WDET. Alex, thanks for taking us with you to the Detroit Auto Show.
Anytime, Robin.
It's the Metro on WDET. Coming up, at a moment of aggressive immigration enforcement, declining trust, and fewer people becoming Americans, we step back to ask a bigger question. What does it mean to be a citizen right now? That conversation is next, right here on the Metro. Stay with us.